It's time for another Dice Tower review with the Chief, Bart Brunsheen.
Hey, this is the Chief from the Dice Tower. I'm with Judd Vance again, and we're going to be reviewing 1812, The Invasion of Canada by Bo Beckett, and I think Jeff Stahl. Okay, here we are on a closer look. You'll see I haven't fully set up the board, and the area I've actually set up is for an 1813 scenario. Alright, here's the rule book. It's a very nice quality rule book, thick pages, nice and glossy, good touch to it. I've got the map set up for the 1813 scenario, but looking at the rules, you see there is a full campaign scenario set up, which is actually defaulted on the board. You can see some of the little different areas that already show you pre-set up things. And then you've got an introductory scenario, which runs very fast in 1812. And then what I have set up here is the 1813. And you can see you just follow this page and it defaults and tells you where to put all the different units. Very nice, very easy to get into, and when you play this setup here, this version, it only took me, with experienced players, all 5 of us, I think just under an hour to play. So it's very nice and very accessible. Alright, taking a look at some of the components, I'm going to zoom in here. These are the playing cards. You can play with 2 players up to 5. And what happens is if you're going to play 2 players, one person plays the basically the British and Canadian Native American side, and the other person just plays the American regulars and the American militia. Each little segment has their own deck of cards that allow movement. We'll get into that into a little bit. The cubes represent your armies. Blue cubes will match your blue cards for the American regulars. The white cubes are American militia. Yellow is Canadian militia, green are the Native Americans, and red are the British regulars. Let me show you what some of these cards are like. First of all, again, quality is very nice on the cards, and you can see you've got very nice artwork in here as well. When it's your hand, you'll actually have 3 cards in your hand, and when it's your turn, you must use a movement card, and the movement's very easy. This card here would allow me to 3 armies, 1 space. Because the nice thing is, first of all, in order for me to activate an army, this would be an army, it must have at least 1 of my colored units in here. On this particular portion, I'm playing the British regulars. There are 2 British regular cubes in there, so I could move this whole army. I don't have to move them all together, but I can. You can't pick up or drop off as you're moving them, but I could simply take them en masse and move them in for an attack over here. Alright, I'm going to move over real quick and we'll show kind of how a turn goes, just to explain it in total. This area over here is just how you keep track of what turn you're on, and these little blocks determine which military group or which nation is going to actually take their turn and in what order. So when you start a round, someone draws one blindly out, and in this case the Native Americans would get to go first. They would have their set of 3 cards available. They would pick one to do a movement. They would then execute the movement. If there's any battle, they would resolve the battle, and it would go on, and that'll be used with the dice I'll show later. And that's how that continues. Their turn would be over, and you would draw the next one out. So there's a little bit of fog of war in terms of you don't know how your turn order is going to go. There are truce cards in the game, and the truce cards have movement orders on them. Looks like this. But if at the end of a complete turn, one side or the other has played all of their truce cards, that's one way that the game can end. So you can dictate some of the ending of the game even based on how these cubes are drawn out. So you can see they're just blank cubes that match the colors of the military units. Alright, so it's my turn. I've been drawn out of the bag. I go ahead and do my British movement. I decide I'm not going to play any other special cards at this point in time, but I decide that I'm going to move 3 different units for the purpose of this. I'm just going to move this one here, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to attack this unit here. Now again, I would have moved multiple units. Here's the way the attack dice work. first thing you do is you look at it. The American player is going to be able to draw dice that are going to match the cubes that he has in play. So he's going to get 2 of his regulars and 2 of his militia. The American or the British component's going to be able to do the same thing. There's 1 militia involved, so he's going to bring that in. There's 2 British regulars, and there's going to be 2 Native Americans involved. So these will be the dice that are going to be used for the attack phase. Here's the real neat thing. The British player has dice that are going to hit. This little target sign is the hit symbol. They're going to hit 50% of the time they roll. Because when you roll these dice, if I get this symbol here, that is going to destroy one of his units. It'll be my opponent's choice, unless there's a special card in play, but this will destroy a unit. So the British regulars are very likely to destroy units. They also do not have any flea markers on them at all. They will not run away from a fight. If I take my Canadian militia, you'll see that here's a runaway. If I roll this, my little Canadian fella, instead of attacking, he runs away and goes over this little flea area that's listed over in here. Now I'll get him back later, but he's not going to help me on this fight. If you roll a blank, which by the way the British did have some blanks, this is allowing me to pull back or reposition. I could actually retreat a unit back as long as it's into a friendly area or into a enemy area where I have my own troops. So it might allow me, if the battle's not going too well, to retreat. So you have that option. But you can see this guy's got 2 run markers on him. So he may or may not be there for you. And he's only got 2 hit markers. So the Native Americans, very similar. They've got one side that's going to allow them to run, 2 hit markers, and the rest just kind of allows them to pull back if they choose. So your militia tend to run away on you a lot, especially when you need them the most. The American regulars, almost as good as the British regulars, but lo and behold, they have 1 flea sign on them. So they've still got that 50-50 shot to hit, but they still may run on you. They're not quite as solid as those redcoats. And the American militia, just like the Canadian militia, they just may not be there for you in a pinch. So very nice. Love this aspect. There's no charts to look at. If you win one of these little key starred components, you get to take one of your counters, put it on there. At the end of the game, whoever controls the most local key strategic points is going to be the winner of the game. So you're always fighting over these. One other thing I'm going to show you real quick is, which I didn't, I should have showed you in turn order, is how your units come on. This is a good one to show you here. York. If you're the Canadian militia player, you're going to be allowed to place one of your cubes here, and then all the way over in Montreal, there's a spot where I can place a yellow cube there as well. So I would literally have yellow cubes that I would just place down in that area and one on the other side. And that's how your reserves come in. Now there's a caveat. As you can see, as this 1813 setup, there's already American units in place. If there's American units inside an area where you would get your reserves, you will not get them. So in this setup, usually the Canadians want to immediately attack and dislodge the Americans, because otherwise it's going to hurt their reinforcements on the side of at least the militia coming in. The Six Nations is right over here. They'll get a Native American unit that comes in this location, and then they get the ability to take another Native American block and put it anywhere on the map where there's another Native American block. That can even be in enemy territory. The British regulars, all the way over in Montreal, they get 3 red cubes. They all got to go in Montreal. So they get a bunch of down on the map, but they're way over in Montreal, and it's going to be awful hard to get them over into this area over here. But you can get them moving and maybe have a juggernaut over in the Montreal side. Very, very solid system. All right, we're back. You just had a closer look. As you can tell, once again, Conflict of Heroes games from Mr. Eichert. Production values are over the top. I love everything from the artwork that comes in from Steve Pichal again. Love his stuff. To how the board's designed. And this is a war game with a heavy Euro feel. What do you think, Judd?
Yes, definitely. When I first saw it, I was a little worried. You see cubes, you're a war gamer, you're thinking, Euro game, is this going to be, those kind of games that worry some of the hardcore war gamers. And when I played it, it was nice, because you're not you're not going for real detail. They're not going to specify grenadiers versus fusiliers, things like that, light infantry.
Yeah, I didn't even know what those are.
Yeah, you have militia, you have Native Americans, you have the regulars, and it's abstracted to that level. There's no artillery, no ships in it, but each one has their specialties. And by using the cubes, it's able. You don't need plastic soldiers. Number one, it's going to take up too much space, but when they're going to that level, then each cube shows a different color, and it makes it nice because you can fit a lot into a space. And with the rules, it actually works out nicely, and it's not Euro at all. Your goal is to punch, as I said, it's punch the other guy in the mouth, take his land. That's what the war game's all about.
What I love about it, this is the only war game I can think of that handles 5 people so well, and it's not heavy. It's not heavy at all. Pre-setup, which we've played both the pre-setups. There's the early war and then the late war. With 5 people. I sat down with a board game group, and we did the later war version, and we were in and out of it. You didn't play in that one, but we were in and out in literally about an hour. Everybody had played before, so there was no explanations. We were able to just shoot right in, and there's a pre-set-up board. But it works really well on that aspect too. It's almost like a quick filler for a war game, because I mean, you're in and out in an hour with 5 people. That's unheard of. So very unique in terms of that and what it does for you. You know, the way you roll the dice, some of your guys are, the militia, notoriously fleeing. You're going to get them back later, but they're not going to help you here, and you're going to have to get them back into place. The ability to reposition your units, fall back if you've set yourself up for it. The odds that the regulars are much harder hitters than the militia and the Native Americans. I thought this was very well done, very well blended. But by far the high watermark for me is the fact that you can take 5 war gamers or 5 gamers, throw them into a pretty quick game that's got the definite war game feel. It is not a heavy war game by any means, but that also means it's easy to teach and it looks great.
Yeah, and like the dice, there's a neat customization of the dice. You get so many, like you could have a group of 20 regulars, 3 militia. There's only so many of the regular dice you get, and it's one for every unit. So if there's like 3 blue dice, you got 20 blue units, you're still throwing 3. That's the max you can throw.
All right, this is the Chief from the Dice Tower, and Judd Vance. See you guys later. Bye.
If you need to turn it over, you will.
Very nice.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.